All righty. Welcome everybody to the CNC with Dave Gatton show. Um, I have got my buddy Hobby, and he's live from what he calls the Gatton room, I guess.
The Gatton room.
And we're going to talk tonight. I just put Hobby Q&A, Hobby CNC Q&A, because we're going to be answering questions and stuff. Hobby's going to be talking about his new hobby box, which is a plug and play CNC controller. So I'm excited to hear all about that. And also, I've had a ton of people ask me a bunch of questions about the recent video I did. And I just said, well, just save them all for Saturday night. So we'll try to spend some time, maybe a few minutes at the end of the show. And if anybody's got questions about that they want to ask, we'll take them at that time. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started here. Tell us what you know about the hobby box, Mr. Hobby.
Well, it's the final iteration, or the final prototype is done, which means I'm starting production, which means it is currently, as of 7:30 p.m. tonight, on sale at the website. And first and foremost, I'll start by saying for the next 3 days, it will be at an introductory price, a rock bottom price, which will probably never be seen again, because it's, so that's good until Monday, President's Day midnight, folks. But let me tell you a little bit about the box. Dave, you want to swap over to the hobby box cam?
I will do it.
And there is the box. And you will notice the wonderful features of the box. You'll have the spindle control, X, Y, Z, and Y prime, or A, if you like. The spindle outputs and the inputs, and they're not all wired, but they will be in a second. So basically, that's the design. Oh, and one more wonderful feature of this box is customization. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it says the actual serial number of the box and custom made for so-and-so. So that's a nice little handy-dandy feature. Another wonderful feature of this box is, for those of you, and I'll be emailing those who've purchased the box to ask them whether they want the regular fan, the LED white fan, the LED green, the red, or the blue fan, because I do have those options available. Now, if you want to go back to this camera, I guess, Dave. Things of the box. I don't have the controller here. It's in one of the other boxes at the moment, or one of them is. But basically, you have your controller here. Let me, you know what? Let me bring this camera a little closer. If you'll excuse the motion here. Alrighty.
Let me just say too, I'm way behind. I've just switched over to the comments here. But if anybody's got questions about the hobby box, go ahead and put them in the chat. And
yeah, I'll be happy.
When Hobby pauses for a breath, I'll
yeah, I'll be happy to answer any and all questions. The basic model has the 36-volt power supply and the TB6600 drivers. These drivers, for those of you that don't care about electronics, well, that's why you bought the box. It's plug and play. It's inexpensive. It's wonderful. There is another version which has the DM 542 drivers. It's not out yet, and that has the 48-volt power supply. I'll be testing and both versions to see which one, if anything, is more reliable. But for the most part, the Xylotech has, on numerous occasions, switched back and forth between 48, 24, and and 36 volts, and it's really the amperage that's.
Got a couple of quick questions, Javi.
All right.
Clyde Labani is asking, is that shielded wire?
Yes.
Okay. And second
No,
question.
I'm sorry. This one isn't. No. And you don't need shielded wire.
Okay. Philip Carter is asking, how long are the cables for the stepper motors?
The stepper motor cables are 6 foot long, and there are going to be on the website pretty soon extensions available. Yeah, those are. I'll get to all those in a second. All the accessories in a second. That's in there. Right now, one fan is missing here, but you'll notice I have. I'm really doing overkill with the fans.
Kimberly, if I could just interrupt
go ahead.
just for a second. Kimberly wants to know where the link is to purchase. Kimberly, if you click, as you're watching on YouTube here, click on the show more, and you'll see right just below that is a link to Javi's website store where you can purchase.
And if you like, type in JaviBox, JAVI box.com. And right now, Javi.com will take you to it. So that's
yeah. There's the link address on the screen there.
So I'm overkill with the fans. So I've got one fan for every 2 drivers. The power supply has its own fan, and there's the big fan that you see in the box over there, basically pouring it all out. And as you see, I've configured custom vent holes on the box. We'll show you some more of the box in a little bit, but basically custom vent holes in the box. And let's see. Other than that, we're going to have, which you don't see here, again, this other fan. Oh, by the way, the box stops here. It's 12 by 12. I've got the 12-volt power supply, completely separate and isolated for the fans. I've got a 24-volt power supply necessary to run the board. It's not necessary to run the board, but it's for the inputs and outputs. So we're going to have inputs and outputs aplenty. Let's see other features of the box. We're going to let's go ahead and go back to the box if you like, Dave. And let me stop this thing.
Well, I thought I was clicking the right camera. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so the box.
There we go.
Yeah. So the box, let me put these back in so it looks a little nicer. For the moment, it's just for show. Well, it is and it isn't. It's I've got one fully configurable box that I'm testing. I've got one here just for, this is my prototype box. Okay. I'll show you all the features of the box. Obviously, you've got the power connection right here, lighted switch on and off. You have your USB connection here, which is missing the board. Obviously, it's in another box at the moment. And simply plug in the power, plug in the USB, and 4 of these, which are these 4 cables, they will be color-coded, just like the Xylotech. In fact, the same color coding as the Xylotech, and they will have Molex connectors on them, paired up with the motors that are also provided, unless you buy the kit without the motors. They're directly, you just plain connect it and you're good to go. It's that simple. Well, with one other thing, the XML configuration file for the for Mach 3 is included in your kit. So you will receive a file and instructions exactly how to drop it in, and all you got to do is run Mach 3 loader, open that up, and you're good to go.
Yeah, we had a question here. They say Mach 3 or 4, and it would work with either one of those.
Okay, so the Mach 4 does take the loaders? I mean the configuration files as well? I
I don't know about that, but I'm just saying this controller box will work with any Mach 3 or Mach 4.
Okay. That's the part I wasn't 100% certain on, because I know I had the custom XML file, but I didn't know if Mach 4 opened it up or it had its own proprietary file. So there you go. Now, aside from that, you have 4 inputs and 4 outputs. In fact, let me just take these wires out. I'll leave those out.
Jim Senecola is asking that question again. He says, will it work with both Mach 3 and Mach 4? Yes, that will work. You know, this is just the electronics, so it'll work with any UC, CNC, Mach 3, Mach 4, any of them.
All right, so we have 4 inputs, 4 outputs, and a special spindle output. Okay, now the spindle out. Well, we'll start with the inputs and outputs. The inputs, I've conveniently, for those of you who are just need it all spelled out, I've conveniently put e-stop, limit, probe, and auxiliary. But the 4 inputs are interchangeable. The only thing you have to know is how to set it up in Mach 3. And again, instructions will be provided, and I'd be happy to help out with that. The outputs are for spindle, router, and auxiliary. Now, here's the thing about, okay, let's talk about the inputs. The e-stop, I will be selling a separate, basically these will have a short connector at the end of a wire. And it's going to be a 3-pin connector with only 2 pins wired, and it's only going to go one direction. So you can't turn it, it's polarized. You can't put it in the wrong way. I will have optional an e-stop with 10 feet of cable. You screw that e-stop wherever you like. You plug it into this, and you're good to go. Obviously, with configuration in Mach 3, and again, instructions are provided. Limit switches are included. You have a certain amount of cable for the limit switches for a standard 4x4 machine. If your machine is bigger than that, I will speak to you and we'll make arrangements. It'll be a little more for a custom wire. I don't have a problem making custom sizes. Your limit switches are included. All you have to do is screw them on to the top of the a good position on your Z box, on your X, Y, and Z axes, and that's it. They're all wired to one input. And if you use them as homing switches, it's the same deal. The probe, the touch probe is included. You have one touch probe, and all you would have to do with the touch probe is there's an alligator clip on it. You attach it to your router.
Let's answer this question, Javi, so I can get this out of the way on the screen here.
Yeah.
Edwards says, so for someone like me with no knowledge, this will be my easiest to set up option.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is my goal. My goal is, so you just take this, you find a place for it. Speaking of finding a place for it, this prototype doesn't show it, but also included, there's going to be 4 mounting holes, one here, and on the opposite sides. Included are little brackets with 6mm thumb screws that go into this. So this will be bracketed, 4 brackets, so you can bracket this underneath some type of table or whatever.
Let's get another quick question here. Matt Haas says, what's different compared to the Stepper Online kit Dave links to in his instructions? Basically, what's different is Javi's done it all for you.
Number 1, Javi's done it all for you. Number 2, e-stop control is wired. Number 3, limit switches are completely wired and provided. 4, probes are completely wired and provided. 5, it's including a customized panel, a box, which you're going to have to do yourself, all the cabling, all the little ties on the inside. I can go on and on and on, but basically there are 42 items. They're all little tiny items, from screws to to brackets to connectors that you do not see in the kit. I have nothing against the kit. If you want me to put one together, I will be charging I have to set the price, but you're probably looking at maybe $300, $400 to have me put that box completely wired in this box. I mean, rather, those components in this box. The other thing about keep in mind about the Stepper Online one is it's not just $250 for the kit. You're looking at an extra $100 for shipping. I don't know if you've noticed that. So it's a pretty steep price to pay.
Patrick wants to know if you're going to have a PayPal payment option.
Yes, I do. If you feel free to email me, and I can make arrangements for PayPal directly. That's not a problem. I mean, this isn't this is a one person hobbyist business. We're not talking about Amazon here. So there are pros and cons. And let's see here. Well, so that covers most of this part, the inputs. The outputs, I sell it's on the website now. I haven't put the e-stop. I don't think I put the e-stop out there yet, but what I do have is the spindle and the router controllers. Now, here's what will happen. The router controller, if you have a router on your build, obviously, if you're using a router instead of a spindle, you have two options. You can turn the router on and then run the program, and always remember to turn the router on prior to the program, or you're going to be grinding a non-moving bit into a piece of wood. And then at the end of the program, and obviously my advice is always keep an eye on your machine, but not everybody does. Some people feel very confident. They don't care about a fire and they just walk away from it. Well, when the machine's finished, your router's still going to be on. The advantage to having it controlled through Mach 3 is that you run the program and it will turn it on, run the program, and turn it off automatically. It's done through a relay box, sold separately, connected to this, or any one of these really, but you can configure it appropriately so.
Charles has a question. He says, all hookups to the computer available. Explain how this box connects to a computer.
USB plug. Not too tough. There you go.
Okay, and also we have somebody here, I'm not sure who this is, TU1X1 says, can you build a box for a plasma?
I believe so. For a plasma control. Yeah, that's not going to be an issue. That's not going to be an issue. It'll be in the future, but I can easily build a custom box similar to the router on-off for a plasma. And
does seem a little fond of the logo there.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good comments on the logo and stuff. The next one, like I said, is the spindle control is a little bit unique in that it takes two plugs. It takes this output plug, which is an on-off plug, and this plug here, which is a variable 0 to 10 volt, which is what the VFD needs for speed control. Now, if you're like me, I love controlling it manually. So I actually have my speed controller remotely connected to this, and I have the speed control right in front of the like you, Dave. I have it right in front of my machine, handy.
Yeah. Troy has a question, Javi. I hate to keep interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
I know you're not looking at the computer to see the.
I don't see the questions.
What is the estimated shipping time? Do you have that on the website, or?
At the moment, the estimated shipping time, we're looking at 2 to 4 weeks, because I have to. I remember I'm making very, very little profit on this, so I need the funds to. I've only got maybe 4 as a buffer. So I'm looking at for the funds before I can continue to make more. And that's usually 1 week between receiving the payment, processing receiving the actual payment, making the necessary. I have a lot of extra parts, but the big expensive stuff, well, I don't keep those in stock. And then, so bottom line is you're looking at about, from your purchase date, at the moment, we're looking at about 2 weeks before I get it in my hands. It will take me, I can knock out 5 of these a day. So,
right.
so it will be shipped out in 2 weeks after you pay, or expectedly. The first few box may take a little longer. And that's the long and the short of it. But I expect it'll be a 1 week turnaround in a couple, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, Jared says he's number one. He sees his name on that box right there.
He is number one, and this is just a sample because the holes are just slightly too big. So I don't want this to go out unless it's perfect. His name is actually spelled without a T. There's a scratch here because you CNC guys are going to love this one. So this was made on a very expensive engraver, a high precision engraving machine. But basically, it's nothing more than a CNC made with very expensive and very precise parts. Now, all the parts in the world, no matter how precise, cannot overcome human error. And when I told it to cut this hole and these little holes, this is the first hole it cut, and I forgot the clearance. I put the clearance at 0.1 instead of 0.2, and it went, and it took a nice little gash through here, which you can't see on camera, but I could feel it here, and it's driving me nuts.
I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he says, I would like to know 100% that it'll work in Mach 4.
I don't know, and I can't tell you 100%. I'm sorry, but bottom line is,
I have the demo of Mach 4, but there's absolutely no reason why it wouldn't. I mean, Mach 4 is just a controlling software, and you're talking about a controller. So as long as you have it configured for Mach 4, it should work fine.
Yeah, I would have to say, if anybody purchases one of these and they have both Mach 3 and Mach 4, please let me know if it works on Mach 4. But I make no guarantees. I'm not here to talk about the software. I'm here to build a box that's easy to plug and play. And, and Mach 3 is the choice for the moment because, 95% of us or more have Mach 3. But I completely understand. And if I'll see if I download. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be a bit busy these next few weeks, but I'll see if I can download a copy of Mach 4 and throw it on there and run it. Is it the same, Dave? I mean, as far as the demo lets you cut 500 lines?
Yeah, and you can use the same XML files in Mach 3 as you can.
Yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't work.
It's just an updated Mach 3. I mean, it's control software. It doesn't really have anything to do with your electronic configuration or anybody else's for that matter. If you have the right XML and the right configuration settings in there, it should work.
So let me talk a little bit about control.
Talking apples and oranges when you're trying to talk about Mach 4 in this box.
Yeah. Let me discuss let me say a little about controllers, just so you guys are aware of certain things that you may not be aware of if you're out there either building a box or about to buy parts to build a box. And I'm happy to help. But the USB controller, there's basically one USB controller design that's out there that's the most popular. And
let's see.
That's in fact, I think I have one. By the way, in building this, I've purchased 6 different controllers, including 2 parallel port controllers. because I wanted to test them all to see which one was the most reliable, which one didn't have a problem. So when you're looking at controllers, this is one of the most popular USB. Now, take a look at it. It looks very familiar. You can get one for $20. You can get one for $65, Sane Smart. You can get one for $85. You can get one for $120. You can get them for $40. Same identical board with one major difference, and it is that chip. Everyone uses the same board. They all buy the same board in bulk. That chip and the programming of that chip is where the difference lies. So
get a comment here real quick, or a question. It says, Steve says, with all the vent slots in the sides of the box, isn't it going to get real dusty in there?
Ha! I love that question. Absolutely. It's going to get extremely dusty depending on where you put it. And guess what? So is the Xylotex. So is the others.
You can't seal up a box and make it dust free, because you got to get the heat out of it.
That's it. You've got a choice. You can either have dust in your. You can either place. You got three choices. Place the box in a comfortable location, or a sealed location from dust. You know, all it is a few wires, so it's no big deal extending them. Option number B, let the thing get full of dust, and good luck, which I don't recommend. Or option 3, seal it completely from dust, so that these and these, and the other, there's another, basically all the little heat sinks on here will be effectively worthless, and you'll have a box that lasts you for a week or two. But yeah, I mean, you put it best, Dave. You cannot get away.
They're all going to get dusty, because they got a fan pulling in air and blowing it across and then blowing it back out. So you still have to open them up, no matter what it is, occasionally, and blow them out. So, and
I'd be very happy to design a larger box if that's what you want. I'll be happy to price out a larger box with different vent controls, with 2 fans, one going in, one going out, both of them with filter covers on it and stuff. But like your Gatton CNC, I designed this box to be the perfect balance between quality and price. It's that simple. If I add more features on it, and I can, and I will, if anybody calls me up, great, it'll be more expensive. If I cheapen on some of these components, it'll be $100 cheaper, and it'll last you a month.
Dave Clemens wants to know, what type of connectors are you using between the cables and the box, if any? I'm using, what are they called? I had the name in my head, and now they're these mini, they're like Molex, but they're these mini, they're 3-pin connectors. Luckily, I got it all here. Unfortunately, it's all in a big mishmash. Let's see. Fans. Heat shrinking tool. Speaking of heat shrinking, all the connections will be heat shrunk, or at least the important connections. E-stops, by the way, for those of you that want an E-stop. Void stickers, which brings to another tamper-proof stickers, which brings me to another point. The box is can basically be opened with 4 screws. The 4 screws will have tamper-proof seals on them. You get a 90-day warranty from me. If I am going to take a video of your box working with your motors, custom for every person, send you that video along with the box, you're going to get it home, and if it works at home, it's 9 times out of 10 you're not going to have an issue with it.
If you open up, if you break the tamper-proof things, well, you void your warranty. Or after 90 days, same thing. So feel free to muck about with the box, because that's the first thing I would do. But don't expect a service call after that.
Let me catch up a couple of questions here
go ahead.
before they get scrolled up out of sight.
Yeah.
Edward says, how difficult will it be to add a lathe section to the Gatton with your box?
Very, very easy. Very, very simple. You have two ways of doing it. One of which is you can wait for me to design the 5-axis box, but I don't recommend that because it'll be more expensive and it's really not practical. Or B, you put a lathe. I'll show you easily how to wire. It's a standard 4-pin 2x2 Molex connector, and I'll show you the wiring diagram as to A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus for the motor, which if you invert them, well, I'll put some sort of instructions out there on how if you've wired it wrong. Basically, you're going to get a stepper motor when you create your lathe. Take that plug, unplug the Y motors, or just one of them, plug the other motor after you get the thing in position. This has been mentioned many times. And it's just a simple matter of switching one plug to another is the short answer.
Okay, let's... William Maggart says, do we have to add simple instructions in our G code to use the router output to turn the router on and off?
It is one configuration click. And
I mean, if you have it,
you mean
have it connected to an output, the M3 and M5 is going to turn your router on and off.
Right. So, well, let me ask you something, Dave. On the standard, arcs inch profile, does it send an M3 and M5?
Yes.
Well, there you go. So the answer to that is no problem. All you need to do is configure the one.
When you're setting up your tool library, you just have to tell it, for this tool, I want the RPMs to be 18,000 or whatever. And when you do that and use that tool in a tool path, then when you use the post processor, it'll put an S18,000 on there, so that with an M3 code to turn it on.
In answer to, I believe it was Dave Clemens' question, these are 3-pin servo connector, and I mentioned this earlier. 2 of them are going to be live in only one way, so you can't put it in backwards. And each one of those has a. It's going to be the outputs are 24 volt from inside, going through the connector and to ground. So basically, actually, these connectors are just short to ground. So you're going to have a ground out and open, and the sensor.
All right, Matt from Awesome Wood Things wants to know why is there a Hobbybox Mark 1 and Mark 2 version?
The Mark 1 is USB. The Mark 2 is a parallel port version. The parallel port is really, I'll tell you honestly, if I were anybody out there looking for a parallel box, I would look on your computer, see if you have USB connections, and go with that one. Because then you're not going to worry if your computer bites the dust. You're not going to have to search for an old parallel port. As Dave told me the other day, get into the modern times.
Yeah, it's 2020, folks. It's time to move past the parallel port thing. Again, they're wanting to know what the price is. He said, I missed it if it was said. I've got the link, or the www.hobbybox.com, the web address, and then you can go to his store.
The current price And this is the starting price. It may go up later. It's certainly not going to go down because I'm barely making any money off it, and I'm finding that that I'll tell you a story about the shipping in a second. But it's going to be $675 plus shipping, includes 4 stepper motors, the limit switches, the touch plate, and the box. And enough wiring for a 4x4 machine. If you need anything bigger, there are external ones. This weekend, the price is $600. This weekend only, up until Monday night, and then it'll go back up to its regular price. The box only price is $100 cheaper if you want just the box and nothing else, because you already have your Xylotech, you already have your stepper motors and everything, and it will be wired for Xylotech stepper motors, same 2x2 Molex plug. And that was an answer, again, the other answer to Dave's question.
Yeah, John West wants to know, can I blow out the dust without voiding the warranty? You're probably not going to have a whole lot of dust in 90 days unless you just stick it right where it shouldn't be.
Yeah, don't put it behind the miter saw as your dust port, as exhaust port as you're chopping wood. But yeah, that's of course not. Yeah, that's not going to be an issue whatsoever. I mean, really, except for the power supply itself, dust is not going to be an issue. I mean, when the dust gets into the components, it's not a problem. The problem becomes when the dust collects humidity and creates shorts. And that's not a common occurrence. I mean, it happens, and and when the dust builds up on something and it doesn't dissipate heat. But as you see by this design, it's not just one fan that I'm putting to circulate. I got a fan blowing on each 2 of the steppers, so there's major heat dissipation going on here. I don't want this thing to overheat at all. The first designs of another brand of controller had absolutely no fans except for the power supply fan. And that was just, there have been some instances where some people have complained, and although I can't confirm or deny that they were right, I suspect that they had good cause to complain.
Harry Vaughn Sr. says, are the connectors JST?
Universal Servo C. Yeah. Well, they're JR High Tech. I don't know.
Okay. And David wants to know, he says, hi, gentlemen, will there be a connection for laser?
There will be a connection for laser. In fact, based on the connections that are there, you can easily connect. You've got on-off connections. You've got a 0 to 10 volt out connection. So, I mean, the laser can work with either on-off output pulsed or can work with analog output 0 to 10 volt, depending on which laser and how you set it up. The other connection, which has yet to be mentioned, but eventually I may offer something like this. I don't know if you would be interested in this, because it's really not worth it. That's why I dismissed it. There's a connection on this board for a manual pendant type thing. The problem is that the pendants cost $86 each. Okay, you can get a USB pendant and operate through your computer for like $40, I think it is, the cheap one.
Yeah, the cheap one's right at just under $40. I think
there's no point in me wiring a wired pendant, except for the fact that the board will control it directly. No computer needed. But, I mean, you're going to need the computer for the CNC part of it. So I have yet to find a reason to add that in, make another hole in the design and connect it and have another little wired apparatus sticking out of there. I don't know. I don't like it.
Okay, TU1X1 says, can custom orders be placed for like NEMA 34 steppers?
Yes, absolutely.
And you can be reached by email through your website, I guess.
Yes, I can be reached by email through my website. I will be happy to create to price out a custom order, whether you need NEMA 34s. It will involve a bigger box, a little bit bigger box, and probably more shipping because it's a bigger box. But for the most part, yeah, I'd be happy to. Let me move my camera, my other camera here. So I'll be happy to do that for you. Like I said, pretty soon I will have the 542 version available. For those of you who know or care, the 542 they're the drivers. They're the 48 volt drivers that handle up to 5.6 amps. There's no point if you're doing a NEMA 23 because they don't go over 3.2 amps, maybe 4, but I would never run them at maximum. The advantage to the 36 volt system is you are running the motors much cooler. So you're not going to get, if some of you have a 48 volt system, you know that if you've been leaving it on for a while and those things are on, you don't want to touch those motors. They'll burn you. So that makes things easier on the motors. NEMA 34s, not a problem. It's the entire same setup with different drivers and with and a different driver, a different power supply, but it all fits roughly into the same box. The other thing that I want to mention is if you need, pretty soon I'll put a price out there for a repair on your, let's say you have a Xylotex box that's broken. As long as you pay shipping and you pay parts, I'll give you my price to repair it. I'll determine what's wrong with it and swap it out for you and replace it for a fee. Now, if the whole thing's burned out, you'll know the whole thing's burned out. But but 9 times out of 10, it's either the power supply or one of the drivers is shot, or I hate to say user error.
Yeah, John West says, will documentation be included with the electronic parts?
Absolutely. You're going to get instructions on, a certain amount of documentation. I will send you links to the, for those of you, again, that don't care about a warranty and want to open it up and look at the whole thing, feel free. I'll send you links to the TB6600s, to the power supply, to the fans. I'm not making any money off the parts. It's basically all labor on this side. I'm doing this as a service to the community, and
Yeah, again, as we've said probably 100 times over the past 2 or 3 weeks,
rubber feet included.
This is to take the place of a plug and play system. So you really don't need a whole lot of documentation other than to where to plug stuff in at. And maybe an XML file if he's going to include that. So.
And I will be including all the documentation, basically the simple instruction set. Plug these 4 motors to these 4 wires. Plug the USB, plug the power, turn it on. You're done. That's the simple one. And then you've got a little bit extra documentation, like load up your XML file into how to load up, exactly where to place it in your Mach 3 folder or hopefully Mach 4 folder, and how to load up. And from there may be minor configuration, but for the most part, everything's in the XML file configured. So it's a matter of you learning Vectric software, and that's where Mark Lindsay comes in, and have at it. Start having fun with this thing. That's the whole point.
David says, if later I want to upgrade my machine to larger steppers, would I need to buy a new box then?
If you have this box with the TB6600s, they can handle any stepper that'll go up to, well, this is a 10 amp supply as opposed to the 48 volt 8 amp supplies. And this will handle up to 4 amp, but I wouldn't push it to 4 amps. So I would say 3.2 amps, and you actually set the current on these things. So if you have steppers that'll can run on 36 volt 3 amps, then this box is fine for them.
Yeah,
if you want to upgrade the steppers.
It would really depend on how much larger a steppers, because it might be that what's in there wouldn't match those steppers, and you got to keep the drivers to match the steppers.
And that's the key. That's one of the basic things that I do that some people don't, is that they'll go setting the settings willy-nilly, and you have to keep in mind that there's a certain calculation. And Dave Clemens knows this. Ryan Ballard knows this. Anybody with an electrical engineering degree or electrical knowledge knows this. If there's a certain amount that you will expect the drivers to draw at peak times when all 4 drivers are running, which is rare because you don't have the Z. You're not going to have the X, the Y prime A, and the Z on full bore all at the same time. That's just not going to happen. But
we got one of those crazy Canadians on here. He says you're going to ship to the U.S. obviously, and I'm just joking, by the way. It's my buddy Trevor.
Yeah.
Ship to the U.S. obviously. Where else will you ship to, Javi?
I will be happy to ship through Canada. I will send you but I will make. And I'll give you a warranty, but I will not pay shipping back if there's an issue. I'll have a little caveats in there. I'll be happy to ship to Canada, or what most Canadians do if they're close enough to the border, ship to a shipping department just across the border. They can go drive over and pick it up. If you are in some other place that wants one of these, this is a 120 volt but it's capable of 240. The issue is it's a simple switch, but I got to set it from the inside because I don't want you taking apart your box and voiding the warranty. If you're looking for 220, I have to set this switch, but there's more to it than that. The 12 volt power supply for the fans is only 110. I have a 220 volt unit that has to be changed. I have a no, the 24 volt is fine because it's feeding off the 36. So,
best bet is just to email Javi if you live somewhere else and need to get clarification on that stuff here.
Yeah. And so I do have them available. Again, this is all, whether I'm making 1 box or 10, it's 10 times the labor to make 10 boxes. So it's. There's no bulk issues here. Every box is custom made, so feel free to let me know what you want, and if it's substantially different from what I'm offering, then we'll adjust the price. If not a problem.
Okay, let's see. Matt wants to know how much to have Javi come to his home and visit just for a beer, not to set it up.
Where do you live? Let's see when I have time. You pay for my transportation costs and food, and I think we can manage. Now, here's the problem. I live in Miami, so if you live in Seattle, it's going to cost.
He wants to know if he can pay in Diet Coke.
That's an awful lot of Diet Coke for the gas that I'm going to spend.
And also, my old buddy Carl Whitaker says, thank you, Javi, for filling a large void in the CNC hobby community. I am confident you and others on this site will keep us running.
You're welcome.
Somebody else. Let me come back to this other question here. Henry says, are there any limitations to plug and play versus learning to wire myself? The whole purpose for this, for Javi to do this, is because there's so many people that either, one, don't want to learn how to wire themselves, or don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And this is to, it's plug and play. It's the purpose of this is to make it for the people who don't care anything about learning electronics. They just want to get their machine done and get it working. That's, kind of the purpose of building a machine, is to get it up and running. So, if you want to try to learn how to wire it yourself, go for it. But this is for the people who don't want to do that.
Yeah. Is there any advantage? You may save $100 if you place them all on a board like this and use whatever wire you have hanging around and all, because in the end, I'll tell you honestly, for the first one, I spent $100 more or $200 more than what I'm selling it for. And that is because, you got to buy things like, okay, I want little things on the side, little screw inserts to hang it, so you got to buy a whole box of screw inserts. You got to buy 100 brackets. Basically everything I'm doing is I'm buying all the stuff in bulk, in hopes of future orders and offsetting the cost a bit to offer it cheaper to the community. Because in the end, I'll compare it to the Xylotex. The Xylotex box sold for $530. Now that was just 4 motors connected. That's it. No e-stop, no limit switch connection, no probe, no spindle router connection, no breakout board, nothing. Just straight and simple plug and play, simple four wire boards.
Keith Painter says your bob is about to fall off your table there on the front of the table.
There it is. Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, it's a beautiful little box. And you get your name on it. Yeah. Speaking of which, when I take orders, I will be taking whatever name you want to place on it. If any, I could leave it blank. It's your option. Oh, one other little. No, I already mentioned the fan LED. Okay, yeah, it's nice little extra touch, which really doesn't add anything to the cost. So it's.
Kimberly wants to know what stepper drivers do you have on the machine you are using?
The ones I have on the machine I'm using are TB6600s and 542s. It depends on which of the 2 boxes I connect to it.
Okay, I think we're at this point caught up on the comments. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask before we get out of here tonight?
I wonder if I forgot anything.
It says Javi has done a great job in taking on this void in the market. Yeah, and again, I want to just remind folks, the whole purpose of Javi taking this on is because Xylotex used to be a very simple, very inexpensive plug and play system.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it didn't have any bells and whistles. It didn't have e-stop. It didn't have, I guess I could get on here where you can hear me yak or see me yakking now.
There you go.
It didn't have any bells and whistles or any of that stuff. It was simply, a 4-axis kit, so you could run a 4-axis or a 3-axis machine using slave drivers. Well, that went away. So now everybody has to buy some kind of steppers and drivers and try to figure all this out themselves. And for the last several months, I've seen nothing but headaches people are having in the Facebook group. So Javi has decided to take this on and build a plug and play box. Only he's adding quite a few bells and whistles, like the e-stop, the limit switches, touch plate, all that kind of stuff included. So, and just one more thing before I forget, because I haven't mentioned this yet.
Ooh.
I said earlier that I might have a surprise for y'all. Well, in celebration of Hobby coming out with this the new Hobby box, I'm also going to be running a sale on the Gatton CNC kit. So if there's anybody who was on the fence saying, well, I'd like to get one of those, but I don't know anything about electronics. Well, now you can grab both while they're on sale, because I'm just started a sale. If you go to my website right now, it's back to the same price that I did during the Black Friday deal. And that'll be running through, I think I set it for like 10 p.m. President's Day. So 10 p.m. Monday night. You got between now and then. So I guess that's all I got. What?
Yep.
Let me look through here and see.
Pretty soon, I'm going to post on the website the DM542 version, which has the larger steppers. If somebody and the 48-volt power supply. The thing is, those steppers are 4 times the cost. So I mean, basically, it'll add an extra $75 to $100 to the cost. But if you want to go that route, and again, I can't stress it enough. The main reason I created that one price is for the best combination of quality and price. If you want something different and you don't feel like slapping it all together, and by all means, give me a call. If you want the box painted, I'll consider charging a little bit more for a spray paint. I mean, ridiculous things like that. People like what they like, and I completely understand that. I'm just trying to get a one piece fits all box out there in the community, so you don't have to deal with, like I did the last week, of wiring up a box for the first time and then having it not work on you and all that other stuff. My only issue, aside from the minor design that was mentioned earlier in the front of the box that I got the little scratch and stuff. My only other issue, and this is what I was getting at earlier with the shipping costs, is I designed the box that was 12 by 12 by 5.5. That is pretty much the minimum size, practically, that I was able to fit all this stuff and have a comfortable allotment or allowance for airflow. And it fits perfectly in the shipping box from UPS. There's only one issue. The shipping box, just so you know, is 12 by 12 by 5.5. So if I want to give you wires, I can't ship it in the box.
Yeah. We've got some more questions here. I want to run through these real quick, see if we can get all these questions answered before we get out of here.
Please.
Real quick, Philip Carter says, do I need both the manual spindle controller and the hobby box controller, or just the manual? I like the idea of having on, off, and speed control.
Okay. If you want speed control manually and the on off through the box, I'll have another price up there. It'll probably be $75 for one box that'll do both those. But you do not need both boxes. Or you can, if you want, have both boxes, and both can work. But you either have the hobby box, for like I didn't name it, you guys did, but that's what I'll call it. The box, I'll have it. It can control the speed in your Mach 3 settings, in your Vectric settings, and obviously, as long as you connect properly, set it up in Mach 3, you can have either with the automated one. That one will control the speed and on off automatically, or you can have the one that has the picture on it that Dave Gatton has, where you can manually turn on the spindle control, and that's just a remote box, so you don't have to go up to your VFD. Because some people like to have their VFD.
Would
like
you
I
like
do,
me to show a picture of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me just a second. I can
Take your time. My Dave is the same as myself. That we both have that My Sweetie 2200 watt spindle, and the same one will work for. It's the same VFD for the 1500, the water cooled, the air cooled. They're all the ones from My Sweeting, and a lot of those Huan Yang or whatever it's called VFD. They're all the same wiring. And what it is we don't like having it the actual, because that thing that's got a lot of airflow in it. It's a very hot device. The VFD itself, I don't want that anywhere near dust, so I stick it in the back of the room. But I don't want to have to go back to the back wall, or neither does Dave when you want to control it. So he controls it manually from there.
Yeah, he's put like a super gigantic strong magnet on this thing, so you can see where my table's scratched up because I can't hardly pull it off. But it stays to the front of my table, and this is how I turn it on, and then it's got the pot right there where I can adjust the speed control, and then I can look back at the wall and read the RPMs on the VFD. So that's how I work the spindle on my Gatton. It's a kind of a wired remote, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, it's a wired remote. It's like the old cable boxes. And if any of you are old enough to remember the old 36 channel cable boxes, 36 button or whatever it is. The other one, like I said, the other box connects, again, same wires, same 5 wires to the spindle, but it also connects and stays by your hobby box. So the box itself controls the speed and the on off. If, like me, you want to control the speed manually, I can have a custom box where it just controls the speed, and another custom box where one of your outputs will control the spindle on off. So the hobby box can control turning it on and turning it off. That's very convenient. I'm telling you, from someone who runs many projects and likes the machine to turn it off and to turn it on, and not having to hear that sound, or, oh, I forgot I left the machine on for half a day.
Yeah. Yes. Troy wants to know the cables are color coded, and you're going to match up the same colors as what the Xylotex used to be, so be somewhat compatible.
Here's a wonderful multicolored pack of heat shrink tape, which I will be using liberally. Just like the Xylotex, the motor, the green motor will be the Z, the X will be the red one, and the blue and the yellow will be the Y, same as on the Xylotex. And it'll be the only difference is I call mine Y and Y prime as opposed to Y and A, but Y prime is A. So call it what you will.
Let me catch this other question here. Harry Vaughn Sr. says, Dave, would you make a Gatton CNC kit to use NEMA 34 motors? You could put NEMA 34 motors on there. You'd have to change the hole spacing. You could make yourself an adapter plate or something, but it's really overkill because the Gatton CNC as designed uses the lead screws, the 1/2-inch diameter lead screws. So I think it'd be just a waste of money.
I agree.
I'd like to take this opportunity to remind folks. I've been thinking about this a lot here. Javi and I have been talking about this. I want to remind everybody that the Gatton CNC is a hobby machine. That's what it was designed for. Everybody keeps wanting to get them bigger and start, putting these bigger motors and stuff on them. It's your kit. You can do what you want with it. But I'm just saying, let's not lose sight that it's designed as an inexpensive hobby machine to get folks who might not otherwise be able to get into the hobby of CNC, gives them a chance to get into it. So
my big question is why? I've run this machine with 269 ounce. That's pretty much half, or roughly half, of what's on there now, which is the 425 ounce. No difference whatsoever. One side in the beginning, when I first built the machine, racked, and with the 269, I go, let me up the motor. Racked the same, because it had nothing to do with the motor. It was the alignment that I had an issue with. If you build your machine properly and square, you could run NEMA 17s, although that's a stretch, because for the weight I wouldn't do that. But 269 ounce motors are more than enough for this. 425s already are overkill. NEMA 34s, I really have to ask you why. I was considering putting NEMA 34s on here to run it vertically, and then I thought to myself, I just have to redesign this, because running it vertically, that just means that all the weight is on these screws, but that's something that the motor is not going to solve. It's still going to have the weight on the bearings. You're still going to have the bottom line is, in the horizontal position, this thing is so well designed, it doesn't need any more. In the vertical position, well,
all right,
that's my problem.
We're starting to run long here. Let me try to get you some of these last questions here. Try to pick the serious ones.
We always run.
Edward wants to know, do all Gatton CNCs need the Gatton CNC words engraved on the front of the axis? Only if you want them to run good. Okay, the website is right here. I got it right here, www.hobbybox.com. It's been on the screen the whole time, other than when I'm showing a comment. So that's, if you're looking for my website, it's www.davegatton.com. But the one for the Hobby Box, which is what we're talking about tonight, is right there on the screen.
This week I'll have more pictures. I'll have videos on the site. You guys caught me basically. I'm right now. I'm in the testing phases. I've got 2 of these set up that I'm running test programs over and over and over and over, because I don't want to put out a product that's going to burn out in the day after the warranty goes.
Sorry, I hate to keep
no, go ahead.
Trying to keep moving here and get these questions answered so we can get out of here. John N, yes, all the kits are on sale. The Gatton CNC kits are on sale as of right before we went live, and they will be on sale till 10 p.m. Monday night, which is President's Day. You can call it a President's Day sale. You can call it a Hobby Box celebration sale. You can call it whatever you want. But I put them on sale again. So get them while they're hot, as they say. Hawks in the shop says, how much to put a big red and black G on it? I would charge like $1,000 to put that on there if it was me. But hobbybox.com. Thank you, Patrick. It's only been on the screen all night, folks. Come on. I always put, back when I had the little Xylotex boxes, I always put them under the table in the middle of the machine at the back end, because that's the least amount of dust you're going to get back there. Because most people, when they cut on their machine, they're cutting on the very front. So if you put it to the back, it's a good place. You're going to get dust in it everywhere, but that you're going to get a lot less if you put it back there.
Yep.
This guy here, I guess it's a guy, TU1X1, says, can you build it with Gecko drivers for an extra charge?
Absolutely.
Just email Hobby for any kind of special orders here. Jason Roush is watching. He says, I think the chat on Facebook isn't being seen. I can see the Jason, on this StreamYard app that I use for live streams, both Facebook comments and YouTube comments come in here. So when in fact, let's see, there's a Facebook comment, and then all these others are YouTube comments. But if you're on Facebook, you don't see the YouTube comments. And if you're on YouTube, they don't see the Facebook comments. They only see the ones that I highlight up here. So, but I'm glad you're over here on Facebook. You're welcome, Jason.
Jason was a visitor to the wonderful complex here recently.
Yeah, I saw the photos. Okay, let's see here. The hobby box, 36 volt.
Yep.
Is
What?
that,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
is a 36 volt.
Oh, if he's asking, yes, it's a 36 volt.
Okay.
System. Yeah, because the DB6600s will not handle 48. They go up to 42 max, and I don't push anything to the max. Not when it comes to electronics. You stay safe.
All right, I'm trying to scroll through here real quick.
Yep.
To get what few questions we might have.
And I do have a 48 volt unit available.
I thought I saw another question. Bear with me, folks, because I scrolled and it just
And if anybody at this point hasn't had their question answered, go ahead and repost it. If we missed it somehow.
Yeah, if you guys want to get your questions about that lined up, we'll spend a few minutes answering those. I want to make sure I get all these questions. I thought I saw another one, but I guess I didn't.
Yeah, and I haven't had any issue whatsoever with shielded cable, because we're not talking about a lot of. First of all, I'm wiring them properly as they should be wired, so as not to have, and it's not enough voltage to cause any electrical interference or anything like that. That will be a problem in the box. I mean, there's not a mixture of high voltage electromagnet. I know what I'm doing. It's not necessary, and it's just going to tack some more onto the cost for no reason. If you're in a high EM environment and you need shielded cables to go from the box to the motors, or you got a problem there, well, by all means, let me know. I'll upgrade them if for a fee. But really, it's overkill.
Wayne Hurl's got a question. He says, would there be any harm in covering the box with a towel to keep out dust? It's going to need some ventilation. You got to get that heat out of that box.
Yeah. I mean, there's no. Yeah. There is no point to blocking the holes whatsoever. I mean, there's no. Let's put it this way: no way, like we said it earlier, no way to prevent dust, because it has to have airflow. All boxes have to have.
Yeah. Well, any electronics. I mean, your computer isn't sealed up. Your laptop's not sealed up. It's got fans blowing in it.
Again, the only other option is I can make the box a little bigger. I could throw in a couple of fans with filters on them. Again, that'll bring the price up considerably, but not a problem. I could do it. It's just if you want a totally dust-free box, we get rid of all the vent holes. We put in 2 more intake fans with filters and the exhaust fan, and we're good.
Okay. Henry says, should CNC have 110 or 220, and should it be a dedicated outlet? You're only going to need 220 if you're running a spindle that requires 220. The hobby box or any kind of controller box is going to use 110. Yeah.
And again, if you want it to be 220, let me know. I have to completely change some of the components to be 220. Your spindle, and to add on to what Dave said, your spindle is often 220, unless you got a 110 spindle. Your spindle's often 220, but the box itself is always 110 most of the time.
Okay, I think we've just about wrapped up the questions about the hobby box. Like I said, we can't stay here all night and talk about every little possibility. If you got something special you need, or any specific questions, go to Hobby's website.
There's a comment form. There's a contact page on my website on the top. Say contact us, and and I respond within 24 hours. Tonight I'll be responding quite a bit, so feel free to ask any questions you want.
Okay. Alrighty then. I think somebody had a question back here. Todd HCNC asked, Dave, what controller did you use on the Avid? I'm just going to kind of give everybody a brief overview because I've had a lot of people asking me questions, and I'm like, instead of answering the same questions 40 times, I've just got to tell you to come to the show and ask me, and I'll just answer it all here at once. I bought the Avid CNC, the Pro 4848 CNC. And, they break it down where the base kit is all the mechanical stuff, not counting the legs. There's a leg kit. I bought that. I bought their plug and play NEMA 34 CNC controller system. So it's got the NEMA 34s. I think they're like 960 ounce or something like that. And of course, it's rack and pinion. I also went with the plug and play 2.2 kilowatt air cooled spindle VFD system. Super easy. Like I said, it's plug and play. You just plug it up and it works. I also bought the proximity kit. And the reason I'm telling y'all what all I bought as options, because everybody keeps saying, well, how much you pay for it? How much you pay for it? Well, I don't know what it costs now because they may have had a price increase after the first of the year. But if you go to their website, you can click on these very things that I'm telling you what I got, and then it'll total it all up for you. So I bought the proximity limit switch kit. I've got the touch plate, which is kind of like, it's almost like a triple edge finder kind of thing. It'll do a Z axis, or it'll do X, Y, and Z and find the corner. I bought their leg kit, which is the legs for the table. I bought the tramming spindle mount plate. And I also, let's see if I'm missing anything here. Seems like I am. No, I guess that's it. It came in the aluminum extrusion. It's all like 80/40 and 80/160 and stuff. Real heavy aluminum extrusion. And it doesn't come directly from Avid. It comes from the company that makes that stuff, which happens to be in Indiana. I think it's up around Fort Wayne or somewhere like that. So they, know what to cut for Avid, and then they cut it and do all the machining to it and everything. And then it gets sent directly from there. And it comes in 3 big long cartons, I guess you'd call it. And I actually got that about a week or 10 days before I got the other boxes from Avid themselves. And the shipping, by the way, I think I paid $521, but it's coming from Redmond, Washington, or North Bend, Washington, I think is their address, all the way down here to the Atlanta area. So it did have a pretty good haul, and it's 14 different cartons, as you might have saw that in the video. So there you go.
Avid's a great. That's a solid machine. But like anything else, you're gonna pay the cost. I wanted to answer one question that a couple weeks ago, Dave, somebody asked, what about the Avid? What do you think about, or I saw it in the Facebook posts. What do you think about the Avid all-in-one controller? And basically, again, it's a fantastic unit. It's with shipping and everything, it's like $1,600. And if you want me to put 9-pin DINs on here and aviation connectors, I'll be happy to reprice it for you if that's what you
Yeah.
want.
And when you say $1,600, that's the NEMA 23 plug and play version.
That's the NEMA 23 plug and play
Because
version.
they do make a NEMA 23 plug and play version, and they also make the NEMA 34 plug and play
Yeah.
version. The NEMA 34 is a little more than that.
Yeah, and if I were to do something like that, it would still probably fall less than $1,000 with the custom plugs and all that stuff. But you're paying for a bunch of connectors that it's just another. I mean, they're good connectors, but aviation connectors cost money in themselves. They're expensive, and they cost money in time because you're talking about solder connections and experienced solder. And it's time. So,
yeah, Todd. Yes, the VFD is 220. So I have the VF. There's a, again, all this is plug and play. You just got to have the 220 in place. But you plug the cable from the enclosure that mounts on the side of the machine that contains the VFD. You plug that into the 220, and then the enclosure that has the electronics, all the drivers and all the stuff for the computer is just 110. So you can plug it in any place 110. Clyde, I don't know the answer to that. For any specific specs, they might have that on their website. I don't know that off the top of my head. I didn't get into that kind of detail with them when I was ordering. Let's see here, Dave. I see your new system is using an air-cooled spindle. I'm still on the fence between air-cooled and water-cooled. 6 of one, half dozen of another. Just depends on what you want.
I'm a big proponent of. I was always against water-cooled because I thought, I'm going to have a leak and it's going to mess up my board and this and that. And then I haven't had a leak in 3-4 years that I've had that thing. That just doesn't happen. It's low pressure. But the big thing for me is I love to be able to run it at, say, 20 or 100 RPM so I could peck drill with my CNC. It really comes in handy when I'm locating all the holes, when I'm pre-drilling all the holes for on the inside board to mount all this stuff.
That's one of the big, if there is an advantage, you'd have to give it to the water cooled, I guess, because you can set the RPMs down to whatever you want. Whereas with the air cooled, and with my Avid, if you set the spindle speed to like 500, it'll never go below 8,000 because they've determined at 8,000 is the minimum it needs to spin
for airflow.
So the lowest it'll go is 8,000, then it'll go up to 24. So I knew that up front, and I'm okay with that because of what I'm going to use it for.
Yep.
Hitch says Dave will be cutting sheet metal again. I won't be cutting sheet metal like steel, but you can probably expect to see a good bit of aluminum.
Yeah.
Cut with that thing.
Yeah.
Yes, Todd. The Z-axis is a ball screw. I don't know what size, because the Z-axis, if you watch the video, I know it was real fast stuff, but when you watch the video, the Z-axis kind of comes pre-assembled like a sub-assembly. You have to take part of it off to get to the holes to mount it to the plate on the carriage, and then you put that stuff back. But yes, it is a ball screw. And the spindle is so quiet.
Oh,
yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention on my on this thing, the first few shipments going out will be we'll have the 3 of the single shaft 425 motors and 1 of the dual shaft. I figure for some people like to have the convenience of putting a knob on the dual shaft for the Z-axis. But in the future, depending on how sales go, and I mean, you could always custom order it, but I'm probably going to have 4 of the single shaft because they are considerably cheaper than the dual shaft motors, and really the dual shaft posed no advantage, because you can actually move the Z with the,
Yeah. Yeah, we're an hour and a half, right? We need to wrap this up.
Yep.
Paul Stewart
We're
says,
good.
Dave, what are your plans for the Avid? What are you going to use it for? Does it do things that your Gatton will not do? Let me just say, if you want to see what I'm going to do with it, you just have to subscribe to my channel and watch, because I've got some big plans. I've been saying all along, I got some big plans for 2020, some new things coming out. And that was part of my reason for getting Avid. As far as, does it do things that the Gatton will not do? Not necessarily. It's just that I don't really have time to run my Gatton because I'm always busy running Gatton kits on my Gatton. So
Yep.
that's, the open machine time was very limited on my Gatton.
The bottom line is that he wanted another machine. He didn't want to build his own. He wanted to treat himself to something else, and he decided to pay a lot more for something so he can have a second machine to have fun with.
And I have to say that, for those of you who may not really know, maybe you've only been following me for like the last couple of years or even the last 5 years. I've been doing this CNC stuff for a long, long time. And this Avid CNC is the very first CNC machine that I've ever built that I didn't design. I've always built my own, but it was such a joy to build something that's so well thought out. It's a great design. Yep. And, being a guy that designs CNC machines, I can appreciate all the thought. As I was putting it together, I'm like, man, these guys, they thought of everything.
Yep.
The instructions are so detailed. It was just a lot of fun. I was like a kid in a candy store putting that thing together. And, plug and play. And it's just like when you watch the video, it was basically that easy. I got it all built, plugged it in. The hardest thing I had trouble with didn't even have anything to do with the machine. It was in the controller, they use a Ethernet smooth stepper from
Yep.
Warp 9. Well, the hardest thing I had was getting that to work on my laptop. And again, that had nothing to do with the machine. It was my stupid laptop. But once I got that working, I fired it up, and everything's just worked right off the rip. So, which you would expect, when you pay that kind of money for a machine. But yeah, just subscribe to my channel and stay tuned, because you're going to see lots of stuff. In fact, I got another video coming out tomorrow morning. So. All right, Philip Carter, real quick. We got to wrap this up. We're going long, folks. He wants to know, what will the shaft diameter of the steppers?
10 millimeter.
Okay.
10 millimeter for those of you ordering from Dumpster CNC. I'm going to be ordering 10 millimeters. Those are the most common, and you got to really go out of your way to find 1/4 inch these days. And it's a nice to have a thicker shaft on the CNC.
Yeah, I know the Stepper Online kit that I've been recommending for folks, and I know a lot of folks have been buying it. They come with a 10 millimeter thing. So if you're going to order the things from the couplers and stuff from Dumpster CNC, always make sure you know what your shaft size is on the steppers before you order them.
Yep.
All that's on the website.
And again, if you want to buy your own motors, it's $100 cheaper without the motors, but I dare you to find motors for 4 25-ounce motors, for under $25 with dual shaft.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, we got to wrap this up, folks. So, yeah. Some of these questions, they're good questions, but we'd be here all night talking, and we've already been here an hour and a half. So,
yeah.
Time to wrap this up. If you got any questions for Javi, go check out his website. Just send him an email, and direct your questions to him. If you got anything special you want him done, want him to do for you. And people keep saying, well, how much is the Gatton? All that information is there on the Gatton CNC website,
Yep.
or the DaveGatton.com website, I should say. And they're on sale from now through
Monday.
President's Day till about 10 p.m. So they're as cheap as they'll ever be, is what
Monday.
Yeah. All right. So let's one last time. Let me put the banner up here for where to go find the hobby box. And I want to really let you guys know I appreciate y'all tuning in. Man, we've had an awesome crowd tonight. I think we've had like 140 something people at the peak here watching tonight. And I know why they're here. They're here to find out about that little box right there behind the hobby. So I appreciate you getting on here, Hobby, and I especially appreciate you stepping up and filling this, which has been a huge void. Because, like I said, you can go look right now on the Gatton CNC Facebook group, and there's all kinds of people asking questions. Well, how do I wire this? How do I do? It's.
Well, I was telling Davey earlier. It's for me. I mean, I've been into electronics for years, and it's therapeutic to solder and to put stuff together. Like some people like to scroll saw. It's very calm and very relaxing. And so I figure if I can put it to good use and help everybody, and might as well.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. If you would hit the thumbs up on your way out. I know there's a bunch of you here, so it should be a bunch of thumbs up if y'all hit it. So, but I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Ryan, if you want to join us, I'm sure Javi will be hanging around a little while. But anyway, I guess we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you all so much. Yeah. Javi, you got any final words?
No, like I said, customization's the key. If you want me to build something with Gerbil powered with or with a gecko or something else, I'd be happy to do it. I'll throw it in the box and customize it for you and give you a price and save you the trouble of spending all that time shopping, designing, and soldering. If you want to do it all yourself, go to it. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Basically, again, let me just say this one last time. This is for people who are like me, because I'm not an electronic guy. I told Javi the other night I've done it probably 2 or 3 times, built my own stuff, but I would never have done it if there was some place I could have bought something affordable, because I don't care anything about learning electronics. I do it if I have to do it, and I know what wire goes where. And once you do it a couple of times, it's not as bad as what you might think, but it's still not my thing. I'd rather spend the time playing on the machine, get the machine running. So you're one of those guys like me that just want to get the build done, get it plugged in, and turn it on and start making projects, which is the whole purpose of building a machine. You might want
this to me is like my painting contract. I have a painting contracting company, and the reason why I'm successful is because I enjoy painting. 99% of the people don't. It's not that they can't, it's just they don't, and they'd rather not. So you don't like to do something that I like to do, I'll be happy to swap.
Yeah. All righty, folks, we're out of here. Thank y'all for tuning in. Go check out www.hobbybox.com. Get yours ordered, and we'll see y'all next week. Everybody have a good one. Well, I thought I was clicking the right thing. Oh yeah, there it goes.
You're still live.
Well, what's going on here?